Piece of fucking shit. I don't know what happened to this kid. That was, I remember this video was years ago, so I really don't know. Oh, look at that. It's turning 2 years. 2012 was that. We're in 2026, so it was 14 years ago already. So whatever happened to that kid, who knows? But now I'm going to show you some testimonies of the transitioning girls, especially the transitioning girls. But don't forget that all these girls are convinced to chop off parts of their bodies, are convinced to completely, they are completely brainwashed, manipulated, and the biggest problem is that they are not aware of the actual side effects and the consequences of their actions in the future, in the short future, in the in the far future. And they are also convinced by doctors that this is the best way, this is the right way, because with the hormones, with the hormone, uh, with this hormone procedure, whatever they call it, you will become who you truly are. If you truly want to affirm somebody's sex or gender, you have to affirm the gender they were born with. If you have a penis, you're a man. If you have a vagina, you're a woman, and that will never change. That will never change. It is absurd that in 2026 we have to have this argument. I feel stupid saying that. I really feel stupid. Now I want to show you more videos. Let's see. Some detransitioning people. Okay.
Hello, as some of you might know, my name is Ash and I am a detransitioner. I recently made a little video on this topic, not really explaining much of it, and
That's actually a girl. She was born a girl, but the voice, I mean, if I talk to this girl on the phone, I assume it's a boy. And look, she doesn't accept that she's a boy. She understood finally that she's not a boy and will never be a boy. She's a girl, but what is she gonna do now with the voice? What is she gonna do now with the small breast, with the clitoris? The clitoris of women also grows. It's the opposite on men. The penis go a lot smaller. On women, the clitoris just grows like a small penis. So you change your body, and not everyone can. It's shocking for a man to see a woman like that. It's shocking. It is.
got quite a bit of backlash in my comment section, so I just want to come on and share my story. And some of you guys, you're gonna hate me for this, but I need to speak the truth.
There you go.
I don't care what you say in my comments, I'm not
There
gonna
you
turn
go.
my comments off.
Good for you, girl.
Growing up, I didn't really show any signs of gender dysphoria. I was perfectly happy with my body and being a girl, and of course I was uncomfortable with, like, puberty
I
and
bet
stuff, but
my
that was
life.
for
I
other
haven't seen this
reasons.
video, but I bet my life that she was convinced because of her friends. It was fun. It was trendy, and the doctors and you in the school.
Every girl is uncomfortable with their changing body. And when I was 13, I started to struggle a lot with depression, anxiety, that sort of stuff. I spent a lot of time on the internet, specifically TikTok, way more than
Perfect
I
target.
should have, rather than going out in the real world, especially with COVID and everything else that was going on. Now, at the time, there were a million videos of all these trans people coming out. And because I was so unhappy with myself and who I was, I thought that that might be what was wrong with me. And I convinced myself that that's what was wrong with me and that's what would fix me. And I went really far to pass as a male, to the point where nobody that I knew that I was born a female.
Wow.
Here's a little picture of me from that time.
Wow.
Had the facial hair and everything. When I first transitioned, I
Wow.
really didn't have any issues with my body, but as I went on, I realized that I needed to fit into this box if I wanted to be a male. And because of how my body did not fit into that box, I became increasingly more uncomfortable with it.
Of
But
course,
it
it's
wasn't
even
gender
worse.
dysphoria. It was me trying to fit myself into a box that I simply didn't fit into. In a way, I sort of brainwashed myself into thinking that I had gender dysphoria.
100%.
And naturally, this brought me into a really bad place mentally, where I started struggling with drugs, self-harm, suicidal ideation, all that stuff. And I assumed this was because I wasn't male enough, but it was really because I wasn't a male at all.
Exactly. And you
I
will
got
never be.
testosterone when I was 15 years old. And the thing that I think is absolutely wild is that I went to one appointment before I was given my prescription. One. And you might be thinking, oh, well, they probably asked you a ton of questions. Nope. They barely asked me anything. I basically walked in there and was like, I'm trans. And they were like, okay. They didn't question me. They didn't
Of course, you made it a lot easier for the doctors. They didn't even have to try to convince you. You came in to consult already saying you're trans. So they're, well, okay, 80% of the job is done. We just have to give you the hormones and you just gonna start paying me from today.
Sit down with me and question and talk, like, is this really what's right for you? They were
No.
just like, okay, this is the next step in your transition. We'll give
See?
it to you. I was on testosterone for about 6 months, and luckily it didn't affect me super bad. I can still talk in a higher range and pass as female. Of course, there's a lot of changes that are permanent that I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life.
Of course.
After about 2 years of living as a male, I realized I was wrong. But I didn't come out about that right away. I stayed living as male for another year before I really finally decided that I needed to do this. And it was one of the most scary things that I ever did. I've faced so much backlash. I've found it that people are so quick to accept trans people, but so quick to criticize detransitioners.
Correct.
Once I detransitioned, all my mental problems were gone. I'm happy. That was my issue. The fact that I'd convinced myself that I was a dude.
She couldn't say it. I couldn't say it any better. She just hit the spot. She convinced herself that she could be a man. No, no. It's again. It's absurd that in 2026 we're discussing this. We should be having flying cars and all that crap, and we're discussing about who goes to which toilet and being men and women being women. Absurd. But I have more. This girl also. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad, the transitioning cases.
I am in pain. Everywhere. All of the time. It's a burning feeling. Because of the overgrowth at the top of my body that the bottom of my body cannot support. I feel like I'm carrying a heavy weight and I'm hugely disproportionate. My joints all ache all the time. You know how when you take a deep breath, your ribs expand? Well, when I do that, my ribs stay open, and I have to put my hands at either of my sides and like close them back in, or they just stay like that and it hurts. And I believe that's due to binding. My vocal cords hurt. My original voice was very, very high pitched, and my singing voice is gone. Were I to be in danger, there's no way for me to scream, and even just talking for long periods hurts. I was told that I would have vaginal atrophy, but I didn't know what that meant. Vaginal atrophy involves the shrinking, thinning, and pretty much disintegration of the vagina. Mine is so small that I can no longer use tampons. I did not know that this was going to happen to my body when I gave informed consent. If you or your child has been harmed by gender-affirming care, you're not alone. Transition Justice can help you move forward.
Transition Justice. Contact them if you have a problem, if you already started. Sorry. If you already started your hormones process or whatever. It's unbelievable. It's and they force you to give written consent and everything, and they don't know. They don't have any idea. They make children sign legal documents that they have no idea what the consequences are. This is a monstrosity, and that's why I'm saying that the detransition wave is just beginning. And what do you think that's going to bring? A lot. It's going to bring just more depression, more anxiety, more stress, more of everything that they were running away from, and that's not gonna end well. It's gonna be, I don't like it, but it's the truth. It's gonna be a wave of suicides because a lot of people just can live like that, can live with all the damage they did to themselves. Let's watch another video that I saw here. This girl, this is also a very tough case. Please pay attention. But before, I wanted to thank you for subscribing, like, and share this video. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for sharing and commenting. That helps the algorithm that is already against me. You can imagine when you touch subjects like this, the algorithm of YouTube and the algorithm of Facebook and Instagram, etc., they remove your videos, they delete you, they ban you, they shadow ban you, because this is the truth. I'm trying to expose the truth that is uncomfortable for the elites, that is uncomfortable for the system, and the system is just reacting back and erases my videos. So please share, like, and subscribe. Very important, and I will deeply appreciate it. Let's keep watching.
My name is Claire, and I'm a detransitioner. A week after I turned 14 years old, I was put on testosterone by Dr. May Lau at Cook Children's Hospital in Dallas, Texas. 6 months later, Dr. Alan Doolin with the American Institute for Plastic Surgery in Plano performed a double mastectomy on me. I was too young to get a tattoo. I was too young to drive. I hadn't even learned algebra in high school yet. But I was old enough to choose to have healthy parts of my body electively amputated.
Listen to that again, because that's the there you can realize how evil and how much of a bad intention those doctors have against the children. They do it, it's like they do it on purpose. So I would say that they do it on purpose. It's just about the money. This is all about the money, just like it was COVID. I want you to listen to what she just said again.
I was too young to get a tattoo. I was too young to drive. I hadn't even learned algebra in high school yet. But I was old enough to choose to have healthy parts of my body electively amputated. I was sold a product, medical transition, by professionals and institutions who told me that it would fix my distress and save my life.
Wow.
I was told that if I didn't do this, I would probably end up dead. But here's what they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me that taking cross-sex hormones and undergoing major surgery at 14 years old could leave me with pelvic floor dysfunction and urinary incontinence, problems I have to manage now as a young adult. I'm only 20 years old. They didn't tell me that these complications are common enough to be known risks, and yet
20 years old. This girl is 20 years old, and the doctors already destroy her capacity to reproduce and her self-confidence to ever. How is she gonna do to have a stable relationship with a man? Because as we can see, she's decently transitioning, so she likes me. She realized the truth. So how it's even worse than before. It's even much worse than before. The depression, the anxiety, and all the negative facts that come with a medical detransition. It's the medical transition. It's just multiplied by n. It's how can you deal with that? How can you live in a body that you don't recognize as yours? That is the problem.
they were hidden from me at an age where I didn't even understand what these terms meant, let alone the impact they would have on my daily life. And it doesn't stop there. When I tried to warn others by leaving honest reviews on my surgeon's websites, describing my regret, the complications, the lack of real informed consent, my reviews were deleted. Think about that. A surgeon permanently altered my healthy body when I was a middle school student, and then erased my negative feedback to protect his reputation. If that doesn't sound like fraud, I don't know what does. In any other
You're being polite.
in any other context,
Fraud.
selling a medical product in this way, with half-truths and hidden side effects, would be considered fraud. If a pharmaceutical company pushed a drug on children without disclosing the lifelong damage it can cause, they would be sued out of existence.
Exactly.
If a cosmetic surgeon buried evidence of complications, they would be shut down.
Exactly.
But when it comes to gender medicine, it's not just allowed, it's celebrated. And anyone who asks questions is called hateful. Every week, I hear from more young men and women like me, people who were convinced as kids or as teenagers that the only way to survive was to become a lifelong medical patient. We now live with the irreversible consequences.
Correct.
The scars, the side effects, the pain, and the grief.
Correct.
And we watch helplessly as the same professionals and clinics keep selling the same product to the next generation of vulnerable kids while silencing those of us who speak out.
So you understand, when you detransition and you want to make your case known, you get canceled. You get immediately canceled. That is the cancel culture. That is the left. That is the media nowadays. You don't see any of these cases in CNN, MSNBC, or CTV, CBC here in Canada. You don't see any of those cases. All you see is the children that are going through transition, and they show them as they are very happy and satisfied with their lives, which is all a lie. It's a blatant lie. And they are confused. They're just confused. They don't even know what is going on, and they don't understand the changes that are going through because they're not natural changes. Let's watch another video. Let's look for here. This girl, I saw her too. She was pretty impressive. That her testimony also. I want you to listen to her. Again, thank you so much for subscribing, like, and share the video. This is very important. This is not even for us. This is already for the future generations. Those children that are 10, 11, 12 years old, and now that today are going to do the very first injection of hormones transition, and those kids that are just beginning that nightmare today, this is for them.
A mentally ill teenager who had been groomed and preyed upon and sexually exploited online to the point of authorities getting involved. I spiraled into a hatred of myself and my body and was told that it was just because I was a boy born in the wrong body and that this would fix me.
God doesn't make mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes. You're never born in the wrong body. Never. You're perfect the way you are. Keep that in mind. You are perfect the way you are. You are perfect the way God made you. You are who you are. You just have to find your path. You just have to find your way in life. And sooner or later, it will arrive. It does arrive to everyone. But you got to have patience and give it to God. Give it to life.
Down a path where I wasn't given any other choice as to what would help me. The very first medical intervention I ever had was a double mastectomy at 16.
Wow.
And then a few months later, I was put on testosterone.
They waste no time.
I'm now 21, and I will live with the impacts of that so-called care for the rest of my life. In the past 4 or 5 months, I have watched as my body has fallen apart in front of me, my joints constantly hurting, my vocal cords aching, watching as parts of me atrophy away before my very eyes.
Wow.
And yet at 16, they looked me in the eyes and they told me this was care.
Care.
They told me it would save me. Despite the fact I was never suicidal, my parents were baited with the idea of, would you rather have a dead daughter or a little son?
There you go.
Bullied into going along with it. Their biggest crime being trusting those who they thought took an oath to do no harm.
Exactly.
It's not about hate, detransitioning. It never has been. It's about keeping kids whole. I've worked with children. I've seen them explore the world, and I've seen that magic that they have. And doing something like transitioning them takes that away. How can you look me in the eyes and tell me that a child can consent to being chained to an experimental medical industry before they're even old enough to drive or understand the impacts of what that means in the first place?
That's right.
Kids deserve to be kids. They deserve to get to explore the world as a safe and loving place.
Yeah. This is horrible. Let's say this. Up until yesterday, everybody thought it was normal to want a boy or a girl. This isn't progressive, it's regressive. The trans ideology has been pushing kids, and of course, there have always been trans and intersex people, yet lots of youth are detransitioning. Exactly. The detransition wave has just begun. Let's see how it goes. Who is Paloma Faith saying she's not doing a gender reveal for her baby and that the child will decide its own gender when it's old enough? See, this is unbelievable. This is brainwashing at its best. Let's listen to this clown.
It's my gender reveal post. Is it going to be a boy or is it going to be a girl? I want all of you to know. Oh, come on, does it really matter? It's 2026. Do we even give a shit about gender anymore? You bloody transphobic, homophobic pricks. It'll be whatever it wants to be when it's old enough to decide its own identity. For God's sake!
Wow. Okay, just by seeing how she speaks, the way she speaks, you can realize that there's something very wrong with her. But
homophobic pricks. It'll be whatever it wants.
What really amazes me is that they say they address to babies as it. Never say he, she, they say it. So it will be whatever it chooses to be. So since that very moment, they don't see the baby as a human being. They see him as an animal or less, or a tumor. That's what they convince you, that they are a tumor and they are sucking the life out of you. Life, having children is the most amazing achieve of humankind, of any species, is the biggest achievement. Just to reproduce, it's a miracle. And hey, let's listen to this guy. Look, the Tumbler Ridge and Rhode Island shootings were warnings. Youth gender dysphoria didn't rise 4,000% by accident. It was fueled by ideology, big pharma incentive, and media pressure. 100%. Rush hormones for kids, SSRIs for despair, erase biology, ignore psychiatric history, all feeding a multi-billion-dollar industry with real-world consequences. I want to listen to him.
The Tumbler Ridge Massacre in British Columbia is more than a tragedy. It's a warning. 18-year-old Jesse Strang, or Van Rootselaar, a biological male who identified as female after beginning a transition at age 12, systematically murdered 8 people, injuring 27 others before taking his own life.
Including his
Police
mom
records reveal prior
and
mental
brother.
health interventions, including self-harm, but medications and therapies remain shielded, likely in deference to gender-affirming care sensitivities. But this is not an isolated case. It fits a disturbing pattern. Transgender-identifying individuals undergoing early transition, frequently prescribed antidepressants to address associated depression, have emerged as perpetrators in mass violence at rates 10 to 25 times higher per capita.
Wow.
Now, this is not about vilifying a population. It's about
It's
the
the
intersection of big pharma, gender ideology, liberal policies, and mass media manipulation. Liberal ideologies push rapid gender-affirming interventions and pharmaceutical solutions over rigorous long-term mental health care. In the aftermath of tragedies, the narrative almost immediately shifts to gun control, where law-abiding citizens are demonized, pharmaceutical profits are protected, and radical gender frameworks are shielded from scrutiny. And of course, media outlets play a complicit role, in fact, perhaps one of the worst.
The most important.
They frame the shooter as female, erasing biological sex, minimizing psychiatric history, and redirecting discussions of motive. The press humanizes perpetrators while marginalizing victims, and any discussion of hormone therapies or antidepressants is quickly labeled hate or misinformation. By prioritizing ideology over facts, the media distorts public understanding and perpetuates this problem. So let's look at some of this so-called misinformation. The rise in youth gender dysphoria diagnoses did not occur in isolation. Since the late 2010s, some clinics report increases as high as 4,000%, coinciding with liberal policies and the mainstream adoption of gender-affirming care. Hormone therapies, frequently prescribed off-label, generate several $1 billion annually and are projected to reach $5 billion annually by 2030. Antidepressants prescribed alongside hormones fuel dependency and further skew financial incentives. A 2025 study found 62% of transgender adults were on antidepressants at diagnosis, with 40% specifically on SSRIs. Additionally, UCSF clinical guidelines note that estrogen can worsen depression, progesterone can increase irritability, and while testosterone may improve some symptoms, it exacerbates many others.
Correct.
Despite this information, liberal policies have expanded youth access, often bypassing parental.
So imagine when somebody is in hormone transition, it's an up and down. It's a Coney Island they live in. They are in the morning they're happy, in the afternoon, at noon they are depressed, in the afternoon they are excited. That's when the mass shooting happens. That's when all those unbelievable crimes happen because they don't even know what they're doing. They don't even understand what is going on, so they need a way out, and the way out is violence.
Consent while ignoring both science and European caution. If you don't think so, just look up the JIDS clinic in the UK. A 2019 Swedish population study of 9.7 million people found transgender individuals were 3.4 to 3.9 times more likely to be prescribed antidepressants and 6 times more likely to have mood or anxiety disorders. Post-intervention treatment needs decline slightly but remains significantly elevated. Transgender individuals represent 0.5 to 1.6% of the population, yet they are overrepresented in school and non-gang mass shootings with rates, again, 10 to 25 times higher per capita.
Wow.
Between 2018 and 2026, a dozen high-profile attacks involved transgender or non-binary perpetrators, including Tumbler Ridge, Minneapolis in 2025, Nashville in 2023, and Colorado Springs in 2022. Approximately 58% of transgender patients have psychiatric comorbidities compared with just 13.6% in the general population. And surveys of detransitioners indicate that 70% report worsening depression linked to post-hormone effects. In many cases, that's because hormones induce a second puberty, triggering mood swings, anxiety, irritability, and depressive symptoms. Additional data shows that SSRIs amplify risk even further. A 2020 Swedish study of 785,337 people showed a 26% higher incident rate of violent crime during SSRI treatment, rising to 35% among 15 to 24-year-olds, with the risk persisting after discontinuation, which suggests SSRIs actually reprogram you to be more violent, potentially forever. Longitudinal data show SSRI use in transgender populations rising from 17.9% to 29.2% over the last 5 years. And transgenderism aside, historical precedent reinforces the risk of SSRIs. Columbine's Eric Harris, Thurston High's Kip Kinkle, and Red Lake's Jeff Weiss all had psychiatric distress and SSRI exposure. So let's cut the crap and call a spade a spade. Rushed youth transitions have to be paused. SSRI prescriptions have to be scrutinized. Reflexive gun control narratives have to be rejected. Evidence-based therapy, parental involvement, and long-term studies have to be prioritized. Federal investigations into pharmaceutical lobbying should be initiated, and we need to focus on mental health first, putting ideology last. Every ignored statistic, every misreported fact, and every unexamined policy only make another Tumbler Ridge more likely. And if we're being perfectly honest, all of the children's lives, both victims and perpetrators, depend on breaking this cycle.
100%. I love this video. It was very, very informative. It was great numbers, and yeah, it's a monstrosity. What we are facing is a monstrosity on humankind, and it's a genocide. They are literally killing us slow by slow. Thank you so much for subscribing, like, and sharing the video. Thank you so much. That helps the algorithm, and that helps me. So thank you very much. Look at this from Gays Against Groomers. Whoa, this looks amazing. PragerU just released a new documentary called D-Trans, which exposes the aftermath of kids who were manipulated to medically transition and the dangers of gender-affirming care. Oh boy, this is gonna be interesting. Let's just watch the trailer.
I'm just gonna do a little voice off. 1 month on TV. I wanted to alleviate my pain. I also didn't want to be who I was. I always just felt like there was just something wrong with me, and I was trying to figure it out, and I used the internet to help me do that.
Big mistake.
Seemingly out of nowhere, we've suddenly seen a huge spike in media depictions and social media depictions of transgenderism. It's even reached the mainstream advertising world.
The people who are consuming this are children, 13, 14, 15 years old, and it's so easy for them to literally be groomed.
I just woke up one day, looked at myself in the mirror, and asked myself, what the heck am I doing?
When trans-identified kids are referred to specialized gender clinics, they're often told that they're going to get comprehensive, multidisciplinary mental health assessments. We know that that's not true.
I was easy to manipulate.
The ideology that has become dominant at these clinics is that trans kids know who they are, and therefore to question them is completely taboo.
My childhood was ruined.
Who's there for their detransitioning? Nobody.
Nobody would help me because they had more concerns of me reversing everything.
Did this thing to alleviate this gender dysphoria that wasn't there before, but you made it into a problem, and now your body image issues are worse. That's not supposed to happen. What do we do now?
I encourage you all to watch this this documentary. I'm actually going to watch it later on and maybe make a video about it.
I'm just going to do a little voice up.
No child is born perfect, yeah. So yeah, the more you look around, the more you find, the more you realize that this has been a monstrosity that has been a brainwash of children, of teenagers, of weak minds that they still doesn't know what life is about. They don't know the consequences of their actions. They don't understand anything. Again, just like the girl said, you're not old enough to have a tattoo. You're not old enough to have a beard. You're not old enough to drive. You're not old enough to work. You're not old enough to do a lot of things. But you are old enough when you are 12 years old to decide if you are going to get a hormone transition or not. You are old enough when you're 12 to decide if it's correct for you to chop off parts of your body or not. It is correct for you when you're 12 years old to use dangerous hormones procedures that are life-changing, will physically change your forever. But you cannot have a tattoo, but you can do all that. Is the irony and the hypocrisy of the system. If it's profitable, if it brings money to the elites, to the big circles above, to big pharma, etc., it is good, and they will sell it to you as the best improving health process they have found in life. Oh, look at this! Watch the transition and look ahead. We just saw this girl a couple of minutes before. Details the awful medical complications she is still dealing with after being trans as a minor. She was 16, I remind you. Absolutely heartbreaking. No one knows the long-term effects these drugs will have when used on developing bodies. And what we do know is completely devastating. Anyone pushing them on youth is a monster. True. Let kids grow naturally. Over 90% will outgrow their feelings of gender discomfort if left alone, and most of them will grow up to just be gay. And that's true. You want to be gay? Good, all right. But give time to time. Let your kid decide for themselves. You parents are killing your children because you're trying to better be their friend instead of their parent. A parent has to learn to say no when it has to be said. You have to stand your ground. You are not your children's friend. You are not their friend. You are their parent. You are an example to follow. You should be the role model. You're not there just to fill up their needs and their wishes. No, they have to learn that things in life are denied. There's things that they have to respect. And like it or not, in the moment they will be upset, of course. But then it will pass, and eventually they will understand that you did it for their good. But if you, as a parent, you're not warning your children, if you're as a parent, you're not protecting your children against this atrocity, then the fault is on you. You are to blame. As a father, it is on you 100%. It is to blame you. You are responsible for your children until they are 18, and they will do as you tell them. You have to make them respect your opinion and your standards. And that's that. You are the father. Let's listen to this video.
So I did transition as a minor. I was a teenager who had a lot of mental health issues and had been sexually exploited and hated my body. And it ended with me kind of finding spaces where that was twisted into, no, you're just a boy in the wrong body. And it ended with me having my first ever medical intervention being a double mastectomy at 16, before any hormones, before anything else. And because of transitioning at such a young age, in the past 6 months, I have watched my body fall apart and waste away in front of me. You know, I have constant joint pain. I've watched my muscle mass waste away. I've watched my vocal cords hurt. I don't know if I'll ever be able to carry a child. The evidence we have
Probably
suggests that the best way to figure out if gender dysphoria persists into adulthood is to let them grow up. Because a lot of these kids will grow out of it, and many of them will just grow up and end up being gay or gender nonconforming.
Yep.
That's it. It's that simple. Just let them be. Let them be. Let nature take its course.
So I
They're
did.
destroying children. They're destroying lives. And the worst hasn't started yet. The worst hasn't started yet. Oh, look at this. Again, Gays Against Rumors. I encourage you to follow this page. This is an excellent page. They protect children. They are against pedophilia and grooming. They're gay, of course, but they are the proof that not every gay people, not all the gay people are this evil. They are not groomers. They are not all pedophiles. They're just different. They just have their sexuality. That's it. So let's listen to this video. Bear with me. This is a long one. This is an almost 6-minute video. So let's watch it. This is interesting.
Yeah, come on in. What's your name?
My name's Clementine.
Nice to meet you.
I've actually seen your stuff online, and I'm a huge fan. I was on puberty blockers. I started when I was 12, and I was on testosterone from 14 to 17, and I got top surgery at 17. Totally messed my life up. So I just want to say you're doing a good thing.
Wow.
I can't believe people disagree with you on this. As a former child transitioner, I'm just appalled that people have anything to question you about. So I salute
Well,
you.
Good for you.
I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. I'm glad you are through it now. Thank you so much for speaking up. That's extremely valuable because a lot of people are afraid to.
Yeah.
So, do you mind if we have a little conversation about it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, come on in this way just a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hi.
So, your name again?
My name's Clementine.
Clementine. So Clementine went on puberty blockers at what age?
12.
Wow.
And you detransitioned at?
I detransitioned earlier this year, actually, but I had been going off testosterone since about 17 because it
Okay.
gave me psychosis.
When did they put you on testosterone?
I was 13.
Wow. And when did you have a double mastectomy?
I had a double mastectomy at 14. I'm currently going through the process of getting reconstructive surgery, and it was harder to get that approved. I actually wasn't able to get it approved by my insurance.
Right.
You see,
But it was
it's
much harder
super
to get.
easy to get a double mastectomy for a 14-year-old. It's super easy. I'm sure that in her first consultation, she had it already scheduled. But to get a reconstruction is very difficult. They make it so difficult for you to be the real you. You have to understand the elites, the system, governments, they don't want you to be you. They want you to be what they want you to be. You have to be part of the system, or else you are execrated, you are canceled, you are bad, you are homophobic, you're transphobic, you are racist. See what the left does? That's the Marxist left worldwide that has gone nuts, has gone completely to the left, and people is finally realizing it. A little too late for a lot of people. A lot of people is a little too late, but hey, we can all do the effort to save as many as we can. Let's keep watching.
Get surgery for that than it was to actually get the original top surgery procedure.
For everyone watching this who says this isn't happening, well, it
Yeah.
happened to Clementine. At 14, a double mastectomy, puberty blockers at 12, testosterone at 13. How old are you now?
I'm 20 now. I just turned 20.
Wow.
Have you ever talked to anyone about suing?
I can't disclose
Okay.
what's going on, but yeah, it's.
Okay.
I hope
Because I'm
you
here to
sue
help
the
you find
life
someone
out
if
of
you need someone.
Yeah, I've spoken. Do you know Campbell Miller Payne?
I do.
I've talked with him a bunch.
Fantastic. So, Campbell Miller Payne is a law firm for dads in Texas who all left their previous law firms and started a new one just to sue for kids and young people like Clementine who've been harmed by this madness. And these are great guys. They could have done anything to make a bunch of money, but they started a law firm. They left all their previous firms They have 18 kids between them, and they're going to cause a lot of waves. I know some good lawsuits coming too, which we aren't allowed to announce
Hopefully.
yet.
I really
But
hope so.
that's one of the way out of this mess we've gotten into.
I don't know how a child.
That's very important, that to sue all the doctors who does these atrocities, and the houses, the medical houses that produces these hormones, and they sell it to you as the magical snake oil that is going to fix your life. It's important that there is accountability in this, because if we don't learn from history, we are condemned to repeat it. So as long, just the same as happened with COVID and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, and they have to be accounted, and I'm going to make a video on that one later on COVID, but they have to be accounted, so they learn that they cannot mess around with citizens, they cannot mess around with the population's health, they can't lie, because they are supposed to be, we are supposed to trust them, we are supposed to trust doctors who made up their oath to protect and never do harm. So if you cannot trust the doctors who do that oath, who are you going to trust? You cannot trust the governments, you cannot trust doctors, you cannot trust the medical houses, I don't know how it's called, but the manufacturers of vaccines and hormone treatments and medicine in general. You cannot trust them, because don't forget, a cured patient is a lost customer. So they want to keep you sick. They, one way or another, they will find some way to prescribe medicine to you in order to keep you enslaved to the system somehow. Let's keep watching.
To the loss of their fertility.
Yeah.
Children can't conceptualize that, and I think people don't understand that.
So what got you into this in the first place?
I was
Friends.
sexually abused as a child, and that was totally ignored. But I started having a lot of negative feelings about my body around puberty, and I was egged on by some guidance counselors that I might be transgender, and I later decided that I was really a boy, and my life would be so much easier because of all this abuse that I had experienced because of being a woman, and I totally just rejected womanhood because I thought that all that it meant for me was pain. Yeah. That's
So
kind
as
of
you
how I
can
got
see,
there,
most of the
but
people that
What
becomes
comes
getting out of
trans,
it-
it comes from the root of their transition is a problem, usually a sexual issue, that they were abused when they were children and the parents didn't actually pay the necessary attention. They didn't report it. They didn't believe their kid. And you have to believe your kid. Of course, you have to make sure that they are saying the truth. But you have to show them support, and you have to show your children that, yeah, I believe your word. I believe in you. So I want to work together with you. But there you go. When children are not heard, when children are not paying attention, this is what happened. This is the result. That's where, and the fact is that most of the trans population have several mental issues: narcissism, autism, depression, you name it. Several medical conditions, and they are treated. They want to treat all those conditions with hormone blockers and transitioning them and turn them gay, turn them trans. That's not the way. There is so many other paths. Do sports, go out, meet family, go to therapy, talk, speak, look for help. But never go to a syringe. The solution to your life is not in a syringe.
Yeah, getting out of it was a really difficult process for me, but mostly it was just getting the right therapy. I went to DBT therapy, and we never discussed my gender. We only discussed my sexual abuse. And after I dealt with that, I realized I didn't want to do this anymore, and the loss of my fertility and my body just started to really sink in. And I realized,
Exactly.
oh my God, I built this entire persona around misogyny.
Do you know for sure that you've lost your fertility?
I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but
Hopefully
You're
not.
on
I'm not the
testosterone
most
for
helpful.
4
I never
years.
went through female puberty, so yeah.
Right. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for speaking up.
Yeah,
It's
thank you
extremely
for
brave.
speaking to me.
It's extremely powerful. I'm so sorry what was done to you, but this is going to help other people not
I'm so glad
to
you're
fall
doing
down
what you
this
do.
rabbit hole.
Keep going.
One last question, and just come in a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
before you started on the puberty blockers, you've just shared with me this sexual abuse that happened to you before you started on those.
Yeah.
Did anyone ask you about that?
No, not
Nobody,
brought
they don't
up
care.
once during the meeting. I was only asked, do I like hanging out with boys? Do I get fit in better with boys? What kind of things am I into? Just really surface level questions. And I was prescribed puberty blockers 30 minutes into my appointment after being out for 4 months.
30 minutes.
First appointment.
Yes.
With
Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy at Los Angeles Children's Hospital.
Of course, Los Angeles.
Johanna Olson Kennedy. I've talked a lot about her, and I'm going to put more about her underneath this video. She's running the busiest gender clinic in the country at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. She received a grant from the NIH a few years ago for $5.7 million, and part of that grant application, she asked for approval to give opposite-sex hormones to kids as young as 8 years old.
Yeah,
She is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, gender ghoul in the United States of America.
8 years old.
Did she talk to your parents?
She did, and she told them the same thing that she tells everybody, that I was deeply suicidal, and that if they didn't let me transition, I would be at high risk for suicide. And I only attempted to kill myself after I transitioned.
So she convinced them that they had two options, a dead daughter or a live son.
Yes.
Did she even use those words?
She did use those exact words.
Wow.
That's a script.
Give me a hug.
Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you for talking to me.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
God bless you.
I'll see you later.
God bless you. God bless you too, sweetheart. This is the kind of thing that really makes me crazy. Really, really makes me sad. You can't avoid having the empathy with a girl like that. She's just 20 and she doesn't know if she's gonna be able to have children. She destroyed her body. Doctors, they don't care about that. There is no empathy. There is no love. There is no humanity anymore. It's been lost. Thank you very much, guys, for subscribing, like, and share the video. This is a difficult video for me to make. I don't know why. I feel a lot of empathy with these people. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. It's been a long video. Thank you so much for... Oh, hold on one second. I'm so sorry. No, not done yet. Another one from Gays Against Groomers. I'm not done yet. A grown man cheering on a child who has been sent to a queer camp by her Transhausen mother. This little tomboy is being fast-tracked down the path of permanent medicalization for profit. Gender non-conforming boys and girls are not trans. No child is. That's true. No child is trans. They are turned into trans.
So I have a
Let's watch this.
little story I'd like to share about something I went through that might seem pretty rare. Please try to imagine if this were you, or you may have something that you can relate it to. So I was just a little kid about 7 or 8, and I had something to say that could no longer wait. So I went to my mom that hot day in July with a hope in my heart and a tear in my eye. Basically, I said, this girl is your son, and I've always felt this way, and it hasn't been fun. We sat there together for a little while. I thought she was sad, but then I saw her smile. She told me I was brave and that she was so proud that I came to her so she can help me sort things out. The family and friends were also on board, and the support that I got just had me floored. And from that day on, I started my path, and we worked together and even faced some rhymes. Together we can weather whatever this life brings, and we'll continue to love, and I'll continue to sing. And I know that there are other kids who feel like I do, and I truly understand what they are going through. Thank you all for sitting here and taking the time to let me tell my message in the form of a rhyme. Please treat everyone the way you expect. We all deserve freedom, love, and respect.
I'm speechless. I'm literally speechless. I can't believe this is 2026. This is Children 2026. Sex researcher Dr. Deborah Soule found that a majority of young children with gender dysphoria naturally outgrow it by adolescence. Who would have thought, huh? Her colleagues told her the science is solid, but you know what's going on to happen if you put this out. They were right. Let's listen to it.
But my decision to leave academia, in the last 2 years, I noticed things were starting to go a bit weird in terms of the climate. And in terms of mainstream media, I was seeing piece after piece about transgender kids and how young children were socially transitioning, getting on blockers, pubertal blockers, and the media was basically saying this is the greatest thing, this is something that we should rejoice about, that these kids are so much better off after. But from a scientific perspective, the research actually shows that the majority of kids who are gender dysphoric actually outgrow their feelings. They're more likely to grow up to be gay in adulthood, not transgender. And so it makes sense for them to wait, not for them to socially transition at a young age. So I wanted to write a mainstream piece about this. And there's been a very long-standing history between trans activists and sex researchers, a very ugly history of activists going after sex researchers if they don't like what someone's study says or what they say publicly. So I thought about it for a long time. I wrote the piece and I sat on it probably for about 6 months, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it out. I asked a bunch of my colleagues and mentors, and they all said, you know what, the science is solid, but you know what's going to happen if you do put this out. And at the time, I wanted to stay in academia, and I said, should I wait till I get tenure? And everyone told me, even if you have tenure nowadays, it's not going to protect you. You can still lose your job. So I decided eventually I couldn't stay quiet, and I thought I'm not going to stay in an environment where I can't speak the truth, and I can't even pursue questions that are meaningful anymore because I have to worry about who's going to get mad, and then I'm going to lose my money, my funding, and I'm going to lose my job. So that piece went out. It was called Why Transgender Kids Should Wait to Transition, and then I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, so that was the Rubin report. It's the cancel culture. The cancel culture supports 100% the LGBTQ agenda, the LGBTQ transition, and the LGBTQ brainwashing. So, and there's nothing you can do. There's not much you can do to fight that back. Thank God it's finally coming out. Everything is coming out now. The truth is coming out. Children are opening their eyes. Says, oh, this girl is one of the most popular ones I've seen. Let's listen to this. Gender confused children need support, not surgery. That's that. Listen to these 3D transitioners share their stories about how gender ideology led them to do irreversible damage to their bodies and what they recommend for parents and legislators to make sure other children don't have to experience, what they went through. Let's listen to this one. Bear with me, people. I want you to, this is all very important for all of us, especially if you have children. You want to watch this.
My name is Chloe Cole.
My name is Elle Palmer.
My name is Claire. And I am a detransitioner.
I am a detransitioner.
I am a 20-year-old detransitioner. I was growing up in the midst of an identity crisis. I was a tomboy, I had a learning disability, and I found it very difficult to understand myself and to build an identity of my own. I latched onto the transgender community when I was 12.
When I was 12 years old, I was sexually assaulted, and a month later, I started identifying as trans.
I truly started to believe that I was a young man who was stuck in the body of a young woman, and I was given this impression that the only way that I would ever feel happy or whole was through chasing a lie that would never come true.
By my 15th birthday, I was on testosterone and had a double mastectomy. I was 16 when I started testosterone, and I was 19 when I stopped.
I started the medical process when I was 13 years old with puberty blockers and testosterone. At 15 years old, I had a double mastectomy. It took me less than a year for me to realize that none of this was actually bringing me any closer to this goal of becoming a young man. And it wasn't an easy decision to go back to my birth identity as a young woman, but I found so much freedom in embracing the things that I couldn't change about myself and understanding that I never had to change myself in the first place.
There are many children like me. There are a growing number of detransitioners who detransitioned before they were even legal adults. I urge lawmakers to safeguard children from becoming lifelong medical patients like me. I did not deserve what I went through. No child deserves a life of pain and social ostracization. I think that another thing that we should be focusing on going forward in 2025 is legislation and preventing minors from transitioning at all.
There's a lot of medical funding that goes into researching the benefits of medical transition, but none that goes into researching the harms. This needs to change. There needs to be serious effort put into finding evidence-based treatments for gender-confused children. The
medical systems we have now are not sufficient, to say the least. Gender-confused children need support, not surgery.
Every parent must know that at some point their child is going to be exposed to this ideology in some way. They might learn about it through school, through the curriculum, through their peers, through their teachers. They might learn about it from the games that they play or the media that they consume. As the parents, you have to be vigilant. You have to be involved in your child's life. You have to be watching over them. And you have to be the one to prepare them for this.
One thing that my parents could have done differently is paying more attention to what I did on social media and on the internet. And I think that's something that a lot of parents need to focus on more now. Taking a more active role in their kids' lives and kind of pushing them to do more external things instead of spending all their time online.
Unfortunately, we live in a world where children and adolescents are going to be exposed to this ideology at some point in their lives. You have to be the one to talk to your child about this before any outside forces do. And if your child is dealing with this, do not, under any circumstances, affirm them through their preferred name, through their pronouns, or the identity that they want you to call them by. Because you will confirm this idea in their heads that the way that they were born, the way that they were beautifully made is wrong. And so wrong that they have to become a lifelong patient in order to fix themselves, in order to be happy. I know what it's like to have gender dysphoria, to have these feelings of pain around your body. The truth is that the problem is not your body. It's not the way that you were born or the way that you look, because everything that you have is a gift. If you just give yourself some time, you'll learn how to embrace all of these things that make you unique. And one day, they won't be your insecurities. They will be your strengths.
Heritage Foundation. Check it out. Unbelievable. This is just unbelievable. What the hell? See, when you find a guy like this is just a perv. This is the kind of guy, this is the kind of guy that fights for trans rights to go into women's bathroom. That's all his goal. That's this guy's goal, to go into women's bathroom because he's a pervert. That's what, and this kind of guy, this is the kind of guy that governments protect, that they want to include. This is for them, the protected class. This is the minority class here, right here. This is just a pervert that want to, I can say it on YouTube. But yeah, this is the kind of pervert that fights for men going into women's bathrooms. Oh boy. For many who struggle with gender dysphoria, identity issues are the core of their pain. Everyone wants affirmation. We crave it. We need to be seen and loved. The transitioner Walt Heyer shared where his identity struggles began, at his grandmother's house without his parents' knowledge. She started cross-dressing him when he was just 4 years old. His grandmother, what is going on? Triggering a lifelong battle with trauma and confusion. Cross-dressing a child is not experimentation. It's not fun or funny. It's deeply harmful. 100%. That's very true. Let's listen to this testimony.
My grandmother put me in the dress, told me how cute I was. Affirmation is mind-altering. So her affirmation toward me had me confused about who I was. She told me, this is a secret. Don't tell your parents. Wow. And so this went on for about 2.5 years. So you can imagine you got a 2.5 year indoctrination into this. I got so used to the affirmation that I wanted to wear the women's clothing because it was making me feel like I had some sense of value.
And your parents had no clue that this was happening?
No. That was at Grandma's house. My parents were off camping and fishing. They'd come home on the weekend and take me home, but the dress never came up until about 2.5 years in.
How old were you at this time, Walt?
About 6.5.
The cross-dressing that your relative was doing of you happened for a 2.5 year period starting at around 4.
Mm-hmm.
Why was she doing that to you?
I think she just thought it was benign. It was fun. I wasn't complaining. I mean, what is a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid? And they don't know anything. They don't even know what they want for breakfast, let alone about wearing a dress and the effects it's going to have on the psyche. It alters the brain at the level of where our...
Exactly. It's a great point. You don't know what you want for breakfast, but you know that you want hormones. You sure about that? You sure that you want to change your body for the rest of your life, but you don't know what you're going to have for breakfast?
Identities are being formed. This is child abuse.
100%. 100%.
Let that sink in. It's emotional and psychological child abuse.
100%. It is child abuse. It is grooming. It is horrible. It's just terrible. The transition woman Chloe Cole recently interviewed the transition man Luke Healy, who breaks down how early exposure to mature culture, feeling disconnected from peers, and online grooming by adults can lead to the development of transgender identity. Monitoring our children's online activity to protect them from nefarious influences is crucial. Thank you guys very much for sharing, like, and subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time with me. And let's share this video so we help saving more children and more lives of this deprivation. This is a monstrosity. I'm gonna let's make this very last video and we're gonna wrap it up here. Okay, let's listen to this very last video.
States of social. My name's Luke Healy, like you said. I'm from Stockton, California, and I was in various states of social and medical transitioning for about 10 to 11 years. A little less than a year ago, I detransitioned and started living life as a male again.
What started to lead to the descent towards this idea in your head that you were actually a girl rather than a young boy?
At kind of a young age, I began to feel somewhat withdrawn from my male peers in particular and my family. I did develop kind of an insecurity that I felt like I wasn't like my peers. One big thing was I didn't socialize by playing sports because of a kind of issue I have with my eyes that makes it hard for me to track horizontal motion. That was really hard on me when I was a kid. And I just felt like I couldn't socialize properly with male peers in particular. I felt uncomfortable. I felt less than them. I felt less capable than them.
Sorry.
You know, especially at physical activities. I just felt deeply insecure about my place in the world as a little boy.
What did you initially learn about transgenderism then?
The website Tumblr, and then with a friendship with a young woman in school at the time who was talking about a lot of these ideas and flirting with a lot of these ideas, whether it was, you know, outright transgenderism, or if it was homosexuality, or if it was the non-binary phenomenon of people not identifying as a man or a woman between that time. Also, a lot of times on this website, kind of partaking in hobbies I really quite enjoyed. I would many times be in group chats and in conversation with adults who were propagating materials related to this and related to other mature themes, up to, you know, outright.
So the groomers, those who are the groomers, all those teachers and social workers and blah, 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 they come with a little LGBTQ flag here, or with the books, or read storytelling and blah, blah, blah. They are all groomers. They all want you to join the trans movement, so they groom you. And the final goal is perversion of the being, of human being, is perversion. And again, I'm not calling pervert homosexual perverts or trans. No, I'm not calling them perverts. I'm calling those who groom you to turn you into something that you're not. Those are the perverts, because they do it with a different goal than yours, a completely different, a completely different goal than yours. They want to take advantage of you. They want to abuse you. They want to somehow profit from you somehow. And that's that.
And you were seeing this at how old?
I'd say 11, 10 years old. I began to see this on the internet.
Wow.
Fairly
It's a pretty
regularly.
early exposure.
Absolutely. Exposure to sexualization, me in particular, but sexualization in general was maybe one of the earliest and one of the most decisive factors of my kind of slide into transgenderism. These people on the internet that kind of had these kind of like man-hating ideas, they twisted that kind of like basic uncomfortable feeling within me into a hatred for myself and a hatred for men in general.
How old were you when you started learning about this, and then once you actually decided to go into this lifestyle?
So when I was 11 years old, I was definitely learning about this stuff and getting into it and getting more immersed, but I was somewhat private about it outside of between me and that aforementioned friend I had in school. And
I remember when I was 11 years old, I was just playing basketball, playing with my friends, kicking each other's butt, and getting your knees scratched and getting in the mud and playing sports. And that was back in 1990s. But how different are times now that I had a healthy childhood. I grew up with friends. I remember when I was kid, 10, 8, 9 years old, I remember having friends that I would say there's something wrong with them, but they were just gay. And I didn't know back then they were, when they're starting to be gay, but you could tell then, you could tell by then. But there was no transition, and there was no hormone transition, and there was no social transition, and there was not all this crap that they are feeding the kids with now in school, in media, in books, in movies. Look at Disney, all movies in Disney, there's always a gay character, a trans character. Even in the Transformers, you find a transformer, if you can be that redundant. So that didn't exist back then. We had a nice childhood. We didn't have the internet is destroying humanity. The internet is what is destroying humanity because kids have so easy access to pornography, to trans subjects. There is no real filter on the internet. You just have to say, yes, I'm over 18, and the website will open to you. That's not a filter. So yeah, I thank God. I thank the universe and life because I had a very, very healthy childhood.
My friends on the internet, all these adults on the internet coaching me sort of, but I came out to my parents when I was around 13 years old. I told my parents that I was a pansexual transgender female.
What?
And I want you to call me this. The amount of adult coaching into these ideas that I had to have to go through with these thoughts and these actions from my parents it's astronomical.
You mentioned that your mom went to the doctor's appointments with you. When did those start? When did you start seeking consultations?
I think right after 13, so I think 13 and 14, my mental health began degrading fairly quickly. I don't think coincidentally.
Do you think the transition was actively causing that?
Absolutely. I was living completely discordant with reality. My relationship with my brothers, my relationship with my parents just began collapsing. In terms of actual gender interventions, my parents were pretty staunch.
Let's listen to that again. I want you all to pay attention to what he said right there about the relationships.
My relationship with my brothers, my relationship with my parents just began collapsing.
Of course, because what do they want? What those groomers want? They want to isolate you from the system, from your family, from the nuclear base of society, which is family. They want to isolate you from them. So they want to make you believe that you are part of their family now. They want to tell you that, yeah, you're part of the trans family now. But when the moment that you think differently, that you want to question, okay, so hold on one second. What will this hormone do to me in the future? Or when you start asking, when you start questioning all the issues or any simple question that is normal to have, then they will immediately cancel you and call you names and attack you because you are against the process and because you are attacking a protected class, which is how they see themselves. They see the LGBTQ community see themselves, not all of them, but most of them see themselves as a protected group because they are a quote-unquote minority. So, yeah, basically, once you start thinking for yourself, they execrate you, and then they leave you with the consequences of your actions, and then you have to face the true consequences of what you did in all those years that you were transitioning, which is all the physical and mental effects. The consequences that there's when you have so much, the transitioning just brings, that just multiplies and expands the problems of the person exponentially. So you definitely don't want to go and transition. You don't want to let your children transition. You have to fight against them to protect them. If you're a father, a parent that actually love your kids, you have to stand your ground against their ideas or against their wishes many times, because you cannot give children always what they want. You have to give them what they need. It's like us, adults. God doesn't give us what we want. He gives us what we need when we need it.
In terms of actual gender interventions, my parents were pretty staunch about keeping me away from these clinics because I think they knew exactly what was going on in these clinics. They saw them as slaughterhouses, I think.
That's it.
You know, not to be melodramatic, but I think that's just exactly how my
These
parents saw them, that
slaughterhouses?
once they let me get in those doors, there would be some pretty big issues.
At what point did you actually start taking any interventions? Like, what did the course of that look like? What did you take?
When I became an adult, I think my first interventions was Planned Parenthood, because I could just basically walk in there, sign something, and they'd send me home with, you know, a prescription for what I wanted, right? So I went on that for a few months. 21 or 22 years old was my most consistent period of nonstop hormonal use. Before that, in those years, I had very inconsistent treatment that was mind-shattering. I mean, I think literally I was altering my mind in ways where none of these doctors cared if I had been on the medicine before, if I had a prescription before, or what was going on with me, right? I mean, I'm literally dumping, you know, female hormones into myself, and I'm just doing this all the time with hormones, with medicine. I had psychiatric medicines on board. I was using various illegal and legal substances concurrently with this, and no one bothered to ask, which I think is pretty telling about the state of our medical system.
How did it affect you medically, both mentally and physiologically?
I think my mood and my capacity to handle some of the other mental problems I was struggling through was diminished 100-fold by my hormonal problems, you know? But again, none of these doctors that I was coming to with these other issues, right, or that my parents were bringing me to, being like, you know, hey, this is really bad, or any, you know, recovery, you know, from substance abuse places, never bothered to ask, hey, do you think these hormones maybe aren't helping? The only people with any sense enough to ask were my mom and dad, saying like, this is changing you. This medicine is making you a different person, and it's affecting your ability to stabilize.
What were some of the negative effects, or maybe even positive effects, of these drugs that you were on?
Initially, I began to develop definitely a difference in my skin texture. I also began very slowly, but some kind of like breast development. My fat redistributed to different places on my body. At the time, some of these effects were positive to me, right? But they were very, very gradual. On the negative side, my psychological capability to maintain my composure, maintain my emotions tanked, especially in my last kind of run, so to speak, where I was taking very high dosages of estrogen, sometimes doubling my dosage because I thought it would somehow improve the feminizing effects of it. The hormones themselves have also left me with the deformity of my chest. And the thing that bothers me, I think, a lot about this treatment is that, like, I don't even 100% know what I've been left with completely, because there's studies now that are coming out and that are being done that are just now looking at the long-term effects of these hormones later on in life. I mean, we're talking things like links to multiple sclerosis. I've seen things talking about life expectancy, more likely to get certain types of cancers. I think one of the more horrible things about these medical interventions is that we're doing this giving people no alternatives for treatment of what they call gender dysphoria, and we don't even know what these things do on a long-term basis.
Wow, that's some testimony. So yeah, there you got it. You can see that all that brings is just grooming, mental consequences, physical consequences, side effects, terrible side effects, nothing good. Transitioning brings nothing good to the individual. And if you're a parent, you have to protect. Again, I insist, you have to protect your children, and you have to stand your ground against what they want, and you have to give them what they need, not what they want. Remember, you are not your children's friend. You are your children's parents. You are their parents. So you have to stand your ground and be their role model, their example. You have to show them the way. I'm going to wrap it up here. Now, I mean it. I'm going to wrap it up here. It's been a very long video. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, and hitting like. I appreciate your comments. Sorry for that. That's my dog. And I thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please share this video with your friends or anyone, any friend that you know that has is going through this situation. Share it. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. That's going to help me a lot, and it's going to actually incentivize me to do more videos like this. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day.